Guys, I haven't spoken about this house on the channel before, but we have featured their fragrances 3 times in 3 different mystery boxes, and I felt like it was time to talk about the house on the channel, especially since we feature their fragrances in the kits, and also last year they launched Extrait de Parfum fragrances of 2 existing Eau de Parfum fragrances of theirs. So the one we featured late last year in November is TOI 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 Extrait de Parfum. Let me know if you got to sample that one. But they also have an Extrait de Parfum of one of their other fragrances called YVONNE. So today I'm going to talk to you about these 2 Extrait de Parfum fragrances and also let you know how they compare to their original Eau de Parfum fragrances. And I should say, they're a bit different. Find out what they are all about coming right up. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm Sebastian talking to you about ORMAIE fragrances, ORMAIE Paris fragrances. The brand is sold over at ZGO Perfumery. I first discovered them at Barney's, but I also smelled them at The Real Real. And finally, ZGO Perfumery has or is carrying the brand for the last couple of years now. But I think they started doing all natural fragrances. I don't think these are. I'm not 100% sure, but I remember the brand had all natural fragrances. I believe up until some of their later fragrances, and the extraits I believe are not natural either, but don't quote me on that. If you've sampled these fragrances, let me know as well. Put a comment down below. And let me know your thoughts on the caps. Their caps are so cool, by the way. What do you think? So also let me know what your thoughts are on TOI TOI TOI. I really enjoyed the Extrait de Parfum, but I had never smelled the Eau de Parfum. I thought to myself, let me go smell it over at ZGO. And oh my god, I thought I enjoyed the Extrait, but I really love the way the Eau de Parfum version smells over the Extrait. For me, the original Eau de Parfum of TOI 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 is almost like some kind of a spirit aging in a barrel. It's got a very much boozy effect happening. And it's quite woody and spicy as well. It's really a fantastic fragrance. I had sampled the brand so much before, I don't know how I skipped this one. But the more I started wearing it, the more I enjoyed it. In the end, it's got vanillic touches and, you know, it's got patchouli. But there's so much of an earthy layer and also very woody. It acts like there's booze in there, just aging in some kind of a wooden barrel. And you open it up and you're wearing this kind of antique woods, spices, earthy notes, sweetness from vanilla, and of course booziness from wherever the booziness is coming from. But first I'm going to talk to you about the Extrait and I'll tell you how it compares. They amped it up with the Extrait de Parfum here of TOI TOI TOI. So the Extrait de Parfum seems to be a bit more on the sweaty, spicy side. There's an overdose of cumin that I'm picking up from this. And even though they don't mention it, I get it on my skin. But there's a lot of incense here, Somalian incense, Atlas cedar, raspberry wood, leather, sandalwood, amber, Haitian vetiver, Osmanthus, Davana, fresh ginger, Bigarade orange. So those are the notes here. The fragrance also wears very dry in comparison to the Eau de Parfum. Dry and dusty, woody, spicy, leathery for sure. And even though they mention raspberry wood, I don't get much fruitiness from this, if at all. It's kind of smoky and spicy with the incense note. So it's a wood overdose and very masculine leaning in comparison to YVONNE. And I feel like they've launched 2 extraits going into different directions. You've got the TOI 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 extrait going extremely masculine, YVONNE going onto the feminine side. They're unisex offerings though. You can wear what you want when you want them. But for me, TOI 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 Extrait wears very masculine, intensely woody, very spicy. I get cumin on my skin, which adds a sexy layer to it, a bit sweaty. And of course, along the way, there are some smoky touches and ambery touches when it's coming, drying down as well. So as I said, I really enjoyed this one. I selected this one to be featured in the mystery box last November because I went through the 2 fragrances. But even at that time, I hadn't smelled the EDP until I put my nose on it and I thought, wow, where have I been with this fragrance? Because the way it wears on my skin, it just smells like I'm working in a distillery. There's these antique barrels that age the liqueur or booze or something in that vein, and it's superb and also very smooth. Whereas I feel like the Toi 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 Extrait seems a bit rougher. Here it's super smooth and also not as dry as Toi 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 Extrait. The EDP is almost as good like you can drink it because it smells like a spirit a little bit, with a kind of an antique woods backbone. But it's incense, vanilla, cypriol, patchouli, cedar, sandalwood, black pepper, and vetiver. And I feel like we're getting this barrel-aged experience from Cypriol. There's a fragrance from the house of Frederick Malle called Promise, featuring Cypriol in the notes. And that fragrance, even though there's no boozy notes in there, gives me that kind of a same barrel aged effect. In this case, it's the same thing. Just smells like a fine spirit aging in a antique barrel, and you're just getting whiffs of this amazing spirit that smells so delicious you want to kind of gulp it down. But in this case, it's perfume, you can't wear it. You can experience the thinness between the EDP and the Extrait, but even though, like I said, I enjoyed the Extrait, I just really love the way the EDP smells. They don't smell too much alike, but they might be using a similar DNA. They might be using, or they are using, the same kind of notes. And of course, with the Extrait, they've added additional things. But here, even though it's not as thick as the Extrait, again, as I said, the smell of the EDP is superb. You've got to get your nose on this one if you like boozy fragrances with an earthy, woody backbone. Anyway, those are my thoughts between the two fragrances. Let me know if you've sampled these two fragrances, and what do you think about the bottles? Every single one of their bottles has a different kind of a top. Again, I've featured 3 of their fragrances in mystery boxes so far. Maybe we'll do more in the future, but do let me know your thoughts on Toi 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 Extrait versus Toi 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 Eau de Parfum. I'd like to find out if you've compared them, and if you wear one of them, what do you think about it? And do you get the differences? I don't think they're very similar to me between the two concentrations. Maybe you get the differences. I mean, maybe you feel like, or you smell the similarities more than I do. But for me, they're two different fragrances. All right, let's quickly smell Toi 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 Extrait on camera and also EDP, and I'll give you some more differences between the two and similarities. So again, if you have sampled these fragrances, you've compared them, what are your thoughts? Are you enjoying them? Do you like one over the other? Do you not like either? Add a comment below. And what are your thoughts about the caps? Would you like the caps? So the Extrait version of Toi 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 is a lot spicier and it's drier. That sweaty cumin thing happens here, and even though they don't mention it, maybe it's coming from the leather, but I know cumin, I have experienced it. It does act like that. It doesn't linger on too much, but as you're going through the life of the fragrance, it does appear here and there, back and forth. It could be also because of the incense and some of the cedar-like notes that are in here, but it's much drier, and it doesn't act like the same. It doesn't act like the EDP at all to me. And with the EDP, it is so addicting. It's just like you're in a distillery working with aged booze or spirits or something, and not only you're smelling the antique woods of the barrel, but also the booze that's in there. So I think this is being created with that whole Cypriol note, plus the combination of vanilla and patchouli together, giving you this kind of a liqueur-like intoxicating smell, along with the antique woods and woodiness of the notes that are in here against the patchouli and vanilla. This is a superb fragrance. I can't believe I have discovered it now, and as I said, I've gone through the collection before, never really thought about it that way until I was comparing the two, and I'm like, this is damn good. I don't know where I was before, but Toi 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 EDP is fantastic. So between the two, Toi 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 Extrait and Toi 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 EDP, I do prefer the EDP more, but both of them are solid, and I think you guys should try it if you like more masculine fragrances. So on the other hand, we have two slightly feminine leaning fragrances, and as I said, these are unisex, but to me, to my nose, the YVONNE fragrances are leaning feminine, and the Toi 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 fragrances are leaning masculine. But we've got the EDP here, the larger bottle, and the Extrait in the smaller bottle. And once again, similar to Toi Toi Toi, I do prefer the EDP a little more. But to me, YVONNE Extrait and also YVONNE EDP smell a lot similar in comparison to Toi 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 Extrait and Toi 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 EDP. Does that make sense? For me, the differences I'm getting between the two are concentration mostly. So the EDP acts fresher and the Extrait acts more dense, if that makes sense. But the Extrait has notes of Indonesian patchouli, Damascus plums, Tonka beans, Turkish rose, Indian jasmine sambac, peach, amber, musk, orange blossom, bergamot, neroli. So it's a fruity floral fragrance in that case. And then with the EDP, similar notes: peach, blackcurrant, marigold, patchouli, vanilla, rose, jasmine, tonka beans, benzoin, grapefruit, pink pepper, bergamot, and sandalwood. So yeah, it doesn't get as thick and dense like the Extrait does. And that's pretty much the differences I felt. I felt like it also doesn't have that denseness in the base. It's just more of an airy fragrance. Between the Toi 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 and YVONNE, I much prefer Toi Toi Toi. It's more my kind of fragrance, and especially the EDP version of Toi Toi Toi. It's superbly fantastic. YVONNE is not necessarily my favorite fragrance from the line, but I appreciate what it is. But I'm going to go ahead and smell the two and give you my thoughts in comparison a little bit more. Yeah, there's a little bit of a bubblegummy thing happening more in the Extrait in comparison to the EDP. And the EDP has a bit more of a juiciness. So because the Extrait is a thicker concentration, I feel like the juiciness has turned into a bit of a more bubblegummy thing. I like the EDP for sure, once again. But in this case, I much prefer the EDP between the Extrait. I would wear the EDP, but in the Toi Toi Toi, I would wear both. But I like the way the EDP smells here. But if you like a concentrated take on this fragrance, I think you should definitely try them and see which one you prefer. And also, if you're local in San Francisco, you should check out the fragrances over at ZGO Perfumery because they sell them there. But as I was saying earlier, I discovered the line at Barney's. It was just as they were bringing the line in at Barney's when Barney's went out of business everywhere. And so the brand didn't really get, you know, itself out there here at the San Francisco store, whereas I believe it was already out in the New York City store. I'm not 100% sure, but then again, like I said, I sampled them at the Real, and then finally ZGO Perfumery got them in store here. So let me know your thoughts on Toi 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 Extrait and also YVONNE Extrait. Have you sampled these two fragrances? Do you enjoy them? Do you enjoy ORMAIE Paris fragrances? Do let me know. Add a comment below. And thanks so much for watching today's video, guys. If you have any questions or comments, please list below. Please like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.